Hey guys, welcome to the New Hill channel. Before we get into today's video, just a little bit of background. So New Hill is a creative production agency based in the Bahamas. We specialize in commercial advertising and film production. So on this channel, you'll see some of our commercial work, you'll see our film work, you'll see breakdowns. Sometimes it'll just be the standalone work as it is, just because it may be helpful to people, searching for what a commercial might look like in the Bahamas, or like, for instance, a hospital commercial in the Bahamas. Who knows? So you might just see some standalone work, and we'll also do some breakdowns. We'll also, talk about some of our feature film work as well, some of the behind the scenes, how we create films, how we go about the production process, the pre-production process, the how do you fund the film, things like that. So here you'll see a little bit about what's happening at New Hill. This channel has been in existence for quite a while now, and we've just been, placing things on the channel here and there, with no real intention behind it. But today is the start of what's going to be a lot more intentional content, a lot more educational, or just reviews, looking back at, old projects, things like that. We just want to turn, this YouTube channel into basically a repository of all that we've been up to, all that we do. And just because it might be helpful for you, but it's definitely helpful for us, to just put it out there, create these breakdowns, taking a look back, and, just sharing that experience with everyone. As well as our commercial work, you will find our films here on the channel as well. And so as we create films, we'll be releasing them here on the channel. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you haven't already. Give us a like, hit the notification so that you don't miss a video. My name is Leonardo Newman, and I'm the CEO of New Hill. I'm a very technical nerd. My job descriptions, I say, is director, cinematographer, and colorist. I don't want to do anything else. I do other things. I don't want to do them. But the reason I say that is because today's video is going to target color grading, whereas another video, I may be talking about actors. Another video, we may be talking about how to get a film distributed. So, it's going to just be a lot of varied content. But today, I was watching my first feature film, Live Is Love. We did a breakdown of it a few years ago. You can check that out. But a fond experience that I always have when looking back at that film is just how lucky I got with the color grade.
Come, you all hurry up. I come to take you all the girls
Sweetheart, I really don't want my half-sister children coming here, That's it.
That's my house, where wrong true.
God is not only trying to use you as a light to share the gospel, but to live the gospel among them.
So how did I get lucky color grading my first feature film? Reason one, ACES. So ACES is a color management workflow similar to DaVinci Wide Gamut. Now at that time, DaVinci Wide Gamut did not exist. They had RCM, which was Resolve Color Management, but DaVinci Wide Gamut did not exist as yet. ACES was developed by the Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences, the technical division, essentially. And it was designed to ensure that multiple cameras, the color space that they operate in, function the same way once they get into post-production. Depending on what color space you're in, the color wheels might do something differently, or might be a little bit more extreme, or might be a little bit more subtle, depending on the color space that you're in. So ACES was created to resolve that and to basically try to standardize post-production workflows. Now, didn't really understand any of that at the time. But what happened was I was watching a YouTube video, and this guy, he was teaching how to color grade, and he said, he uses ACES, and based on the results he got in the video, I'm like, okay, I want to try this too. And praise the Lord, it worked out wonderfully, because what it did was give me a proper log to Rec 709 conversion Meaning I wasn't manually taking a log image and trying to add saturation and contrast just to make it look like a standard Rec 709 image or a standard picture profile, which essentially placed my footage in the same starting point that I had while I was shooting it. So that's the first reason I got lucky. I somehow chose to color grade in ACES, even though I didn't fully understand what it was from a technical standpoint. That YouTube video pointed me in a good direction, and that gave me a great starting point. Reason number 2, how I got lucky color grading my first feature film. I didn't know what I didn't know. So because I was fairly new to production at that time, and I had just started using DaVinci Resolve in April of 2019, and here I was color grading Live is Love in about August, September of 2019, it's safe to say that I didn't really know the ins and outs of Resolve. I didn't know what color management actually was. I didn't know what a log profile actually was. What I did know was that Hollywood used this software, and so if they could do it, I could do it too. While I had some knowledge, because I was self-taught, I have a lot of knowledge gaps in like certain areas that you might just not have been exposed to, and you might have not stumbled across as yet in your, YouTube searching journey, essentially. But I believe this knowledge gap was actually my greatest success in this color grade. Because I didn't know what I didn't know, I didn't experiment too much. This meant I stuck pretty close to the Rec 709 transform that ACES provided. I didn't do any crazy qualifiers, and so my image didn't break. While I did some counterintuitive manipulation with the curves that led to some blown out highlights, because of the way Resolve works with its 32-bit system, if you destroy something in one node, you could sort of recover that in the next node. And so though I was destroying the footage essentially in some nodes when I was using the curves, because I actually could see that, maybe the highlight's a bit bright now, I was able to pull that down a bit. And you'll see an example of that actually. This lack of knowledge led to a lack of experimentation, which led to a pretty standard image, which in most cases is pretty okay, even by my standards today, and in some cases, pleasing. Reason number 3 for how I got lucky color grading my first feature film. My footage was okay. So even though I was fairly new to production, I had still shot a few commercials and 3 short films up to this point, with the last film being about 38 minutes long. And that film, the name is Waiting, and you can find it on the YouTube channel actually. That film was the first film I ever color graded in DaVinci Resolve. That was the first project I ever color graded in DaVinci Resolve. And while I was color grading that film, I kept coming to the realization of, why does this not look as good as Jordan Peele's Us that also came out in 2019? And no matter how hard I tried, I could never get my skin tones to look as rich as Lupita's in Us. And that led me down sort of a rabbit hole on how to light. And I remember searching terms like how to light for darker skin tones, because we're in the Bahamas, so most of our skin tones are Black people. And so, I was searching and using those kinds of keywords in my YouTube search. I came across a few different videos. I actually remember it was like a roundtable sort of discussion. Bradford Young, I believe, was on it. And, just seeing some of the suggestions, some people, talk about using a polarizer. Some persons say you try to mix some blue and I remember like blue and pinkish or something in this when you color grading it to make the skin more richer. Others, suggested using unbleached muslin. I did actually buy unbleached muslin. But what I found in the end was really, I just needed better lighting, right? I would sort of have a different take on that question today. How do you light for darker skin tones? Because I think if you can light any skin tone, or you can light any skin tone. So if I can light a light skin tone, then I can light a dark skin tone. I don't think there's anything different or special about lighting either. I think the process is lighting. As long as you know how to light, you can figure out how to light anything to look good. Nonetheless, I purchased some, larger lights, some larger softboxes, some Aputure 120D knockoffs because couldn't afford the apertures, so I got the Godox. And this was when Godox was first and foremost a photo brand, versus now they're doing all these big fancy, cinema lights. But this was back when they were mainly photo brands. So they were straight up 120D knockoffs that I was using, and purchased a big old 48-inch softbox. Learned a little bit about book lighting. And so we did a mix of a lot of different lighting techniques on the film. And we did some better than others. Again, it was a learning experience. It was shot with the light too bright in many circumstances, or just, not really fully understanding where to place lights in relation to a scene. So we still had some issues there, but nonetheless, this gave me a stronger foundation when it began the color grading Live is Love. Because my images were decent, a proper Rec 709 conversion with ACES and balancing placed my final images in a spot that is still very much acceptable today, even with my more rigid eyes. So that's the third reason how I got lucky color grading my first feature film. But before we end the video, we're just going to take a look at one of the shots in the film to see what it looked like when I first color graded it and how I might, color grade it today. All right, so we have our project loaded in Resolve. And the image that we're going to be looking at is this shot that is still one of my favorite images from the film. I just like, how it looks. Even today, when I make some adjustments or changes for sure, but I like how it looks. It has a nice depth to it. I like, the little kiss of light coming around the side of her face, and then the lamp in the background adding some interest. So it has, characteristics of a nice image. And so I still like what it looks like even today. Now, what I'm going to do now is just turn off everything. And so we'll see what I did, how I got to this point. And once we do that, then I'm going to take it all the way back to the raw image and see what I would do today. So let's turn everything off. Woo, that is yellow. I clearly did not know how to white balance well in camera at the time. Nonetheless, I was shooting in RAW, so I guess I did not really care about white balance that much. But that is very yellow. And so what you're seeing now is the image after it's converted to Rec 709 using the ACES transform. And I'm doing that conversion at the project level. We're using ACES CC, not even ACES CCT, wow. ACES CC. And so ACES is doing the 709 conversion for me. And for anyone who may not know what 709 is or Rec 709 is, just think of it as the standard image that you see if you turn on your camera. Because cameras record in log, which is a container designed for the sole purposes of collecting as much information as possible. Now, displays can't reproduce all of that information. So Rec 709 is a standard that essentially takes that data and maps it to what a display can reproduce. From a visual standpoint, the image might look flat and gray, and Rec 709 will give it some color and some contrast. And it's more than that, but that's what it looks like to the eye. For reference, this is what this image would look like in log. So it's flat and it's gray. It's not, it's not meant to be displayed that way. So ACES is taking that image and converting the values into what it should be when being shown on a traditional LCD, HD, LED display. Since we have that conversion out of the way and we don't now have to do that ourselves, there's less room for me to mess this up. If I was starting from here and I was trying to use these color wheels and these color tools to, create contrast and try to get this to looking like a normal image, I could do so many things to break the image or mess it up. So let's go through it and let's see what all of these nodes are. So first we have this NR node, and I don't know if this is doing anything. I turn it on and I don't get I don't see it changing anything. So it's telling me that something is happening inside our log wheels. So now I'm in the log wheels and I see where I raised the log wheels up a very tiny bit. The log wheels in this case is the deepest shadows. This part that is being raised is the deepest shadows of the image. But because the image is like so bright and overexposed, it's already like, it's not really going to make a visible difference because the image is already too bright. So maybe once all these other things turn on, maybe we'll see a bigger difference as to what's happening with this node. So we move on from this node that's happening, because it's labeled NR, which should stand for noise reduction, but I didn't have noise reduction because I didn't grade this in the full version of Resolve when I was creating this. So that was obviously just a label I got from watching a YouTube video on how to build a node tree. And I did not use it for noise reduction. So we go to our next node. Let's turn that on. So we have white balance. Okay, so that's a big difference. So we go from, that yellow image to, a more neutral, a more balanced image. To achieve the white balance, I just used the temp and the tint slider. Wow. And then I used the highlight slider in the log wheels, I guess, to bring down the highlights. Oh, see, it brings down the lamp. Why did I do that in the white balance? I don't know. And interesting decision making, but that's what I did in the white balance tab. I have the parallel node stack now, and I introduced some contrast. And how did I introduce this contrast? Let's take a look. I just dragged the contrast slider. Fascinating. Very simple, not over the top at all. But the contrast really made the image look worse. I went too far with the contrast. So let's see what I did in the next node. So in the next node, I now pull back some of the contrast, but still going in a decently okay direction. Like, this is okay. Lamp a little bright, but it's okay. How did I call it highlight mids and shadows. That's the name of this node. So this is where I adjust my highlight mids and shadows, apparently. And I'm also doing color adjustment in each of them, which is an interesting choice. So I made the image brighter. I reduced gain, probably to combat that heavy contrast that we introduced. And then I increased gamma, and I also increased lift. So I essentially undid some of the contrast that we introduced, and I shifted colors slightly in, I don't know, a cooler, warmer direction. It's warmer in the shadows, but cooler in the midtones. That's what we did. And so now let's go to lamp. I don't know why this is called lamp. I'm pretty sure it was because I was targeting the lamp in the background. But it's affecting everything, so it's really not a lamp-specific adjustment. But either way, because I made the lamp brighter in the contrast node, now in the lamp node, I'm trying to adjust it, I guess. And I took the gain down by quite a chunk in the lamp node. I took the gain down a little bit. And we adjusted the saturation. I reduced the saturation of this particular hue. And I also changed the hue. So that is an interesting decision that I did. And I call it lamp. and I wouldn't do it this way, but it yielded a fine result. So I could see why I kept that, right? Again, this is all about, these are very lucky. This is a really lucky thing per se, because none of this is coming from the foundation of I knew what I was doing, because clearly looking back at it 7 years later, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was getting a decent image response on the screen. And really and truly, that has to come down to the reality that I was using ACES. Because if I had made these same adjustments, having tried to create my own Rec 709 conversion by using contrast and saturation, this would have broken and this would not have, held up as well as it did. So a good transform, a good log to 709 transform will save bad grading. I mean, you could still make them look bad. They have certain guardrails in place that tries to clamp values or roll values off that you might be pushing too far. So here I introduce look. I call this look. What did I do in look? So in look, we reduce brightness again. I clearly did not like the brightness. I was clearly trying to adjust the brightness. It seems as if I really wanted the background that was really bright to just get darker. And I probably wanted some light on my character. And which is something, would be simpler to do while shooting. But here I am in the grade, trying to make that happen. But we're getting good results, right? So it made it darker. Let's see. I see we also have a curve effect going on. So let's check that. Ooh. So this is what I'm talking about when I said I did some counterintuitive curve adjustments. So this was back in my day when I used to use editable splines. And someone taught me this. A local, one of my friends actually, he worked on this film. They went to a Resolve conference and the instructor taught them that you can move the slider in this direction, right? Because typically you only go up and down, but he taught them you can go like this. But that will break your image because you're intentionally clipping your highlights essentially. Sorry. So back to the actual normal image, didn't go back far enough. But all in all, the look node made it a bit darker, and I have this counterintuitive contrast slider going on. And to end it, it's crazy that in the look node, I did not have any color stuff. I do have a mid-tone detail going on though, which is interesting that I just have an overall mid-tone detail going on. I wouldn't do that today, but that's what I did here. And now we have a vignette. Okay, so our vignette put some focus around our character. So it really helped me to knock down those walls. I actually can remember creating this and like introducing this vignette here and thinking, wow, that looks so much better. And it actually does, but it's just, I really love vignettes. Vignettes are nice, especially when you can use them well. So after the vignette, it looks like we have one more node, and yep, as I suspected, it's our glow node, because back in this day, I really loved using the glow effect. And it just does a nice subtle shift before, after, just adds a little bit more brightness to our character's face. And so that's how I graded this shot. And again, I like how it came out. This is still a pleasing image to me today. Now let's take a quick look at what I would do today. First things first, I am not going to grade in ACES because I don't grade in ACES anymore. I kind of stopped grading in ACES shortly after this. So now I do my own node level color management, essentially. But still the same principles of ACES, but I'm using my own transforms. And I'm using it in a DaVinci wide gamut color space. Turn this to tetrahedral. So Of course, this image was made for Asus. As you can see, it has no Rec. 709 transform. And just as a quick aside so that you see when I talk about Rec. 709 transform, if you add contrast, you add saturation, make it brighter, add more contrast. Oh, I'm breaking it. Add saturation. And then try to balance it to make it look more like normalish. This is what you would get if you essentially had to do your own 709 transform. It's not going to be good because these tools were not made to create complex transforms. 709 transforms, like they can get really complicated. A lot of those, the basis of it is a 3x3 matrix, but it can get really complicated. And so it's always best to use a technical transform that was either developed by the camera manufacturer or, something like Asus that was developed by the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences, or then you have some other 709 tools that are developed by color scientists, people like that. All right, so future Leo here. This video has gotten quite long, so I'm going to have to break it into 2 parts. So in today's episode, we covered the 3 reasons how I got lucky color grading my first feature film, and then we took a look at a grade from one of the shots in the film. So in the next video, we're going to look at how I would color grade that shot today using new processes, new techniques, and we'll take a look and see which one looks better. Is Leo today better at color grading now than Leo in 2019? That's going to be an interesting video. So stay tuned for that one, and it'll come out real soon. Thank you again for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Whoosh.